So our current mainstream metaphysics says that the world is physical and that consciousness is a sort of a secondary or an epiphenomenal construct of certain material arrangements like brains. And therefore consciousness only exists within brains. Another hypothesis is that consciousness is everywhere, and that particular material arrangements simply reflect or betray the presence of certain states of consciousness or arrangements of consciousness. So my brain betrays the presence of a human arrangement of consciousness. But consciousness is primary, it's spread throughout the universe. So that's what is cosmopsychism. There are many variations of it.
What do you mean that consciousness is separate from what I'm experiencing right now in my head, in this body, in this chair, looking at a screen?
I'm precisely saying that it's not separate, that it's intrinsic to your body, but since your body is made of the same kinds of atoms and fields as the rest of the universe, then it's intrinsic to the entire universe. So consciousness is everywhere, which doesn't mean that everything is conscious in and of itself. A single neuron in my head doesn't have its own inner chatter, talking to its neural neighbors. There is only something it is like to be me, not something it is like to be a single neuron in my head. By the same token, there may be nothing it is like to be this bottle of water right now. And that doesn't contradict the hypothesis that consciousness is everywhere. Just as it correlates with the whole of my brain, including every neuron, it may correlate with the entirety of the physical universe. And that does not mean that everything is consciousness. It only means that consciousness underlies or is immanent in everything.
What this leads to is, if the body is a part of a larger consciousness, is the mirrored systems that we're interacting with all throughout our existence that are actually just mirrored reflections of different forms of consciousness. Meaning that if the body is a reflection of some larger system, what am I connected to? How do I operate? How does that change what I understand my physical reality to be?
When you look in the mirror, you see a physical body that you can describe, you can delineate its boundaries, you can say, there it is, there is a physical body there. But you know from direct experience that behind that physical body you see in the mirror, there is the entire inner life of Jonathan, an entire universe of subjectivity, of inner experience. Behind that image or underlying that image, there is the entire subjective inner life of a person, of the person who is looking.
And one of the best examples of that is when you were 5 years old, you were looking in the mirror at a completely different body. It was much smaller. It had a completely different experience, but you did not have a problem when you turned 6 being like, who the fuck is that in the mirror? You were like, 5-year-old me is now 6, and then I'm 20, and one day I'll be, God willing, 120, right? That's the you inside. That's the observing mind, correct?
We have no problem in understanding that behind that image in the mirror, there is the entire subjective universe of me. Cosmopsychism would say the same applies to the entire universe. Behind the physical universe, there is the inner life of the universe, which presents itself to us in the form of physical arrangements, just as my inner life presents itself to you in the form of the physical arrangements we call my body. My words, my smile, my facial expressions, those betray the presence of my inner life. If I cry, you will say, he is sad. So material arrangements, physical configurations correlate with inner mental states. We know that for people. Panpsychism would say, now do the same thing for the entirety of the universe. There is a universal mind that underlies all the physical universe, and the configurations of the physical universe, the stars, the quasars, the galaxies, the black holes and supernovae, they are like your smile. They are physical configurations that betray the presence of an inner psychological subjective state. And look how beautiful this is, because it eliminates all arbitrary differentiations in nature. in all cases, material arrangements, physical configurations are the extrinsic appearance of inner mental states. That holds for your brain, and it holds for everything else that is made of the same kinds of atoms and force fields as your brain. There is no arbitrary discontinuity in nature. Matter is always the external appearance of inner experience under cosmopsychism.